to the channel where I make how-to videos from subjects like Mac tips, backend, Swift, Salesforce, and game development. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is the last of my blueprint series. I know there's always more to blueprints, but I believe we've covered the basics. If you're looking for a particular topic, do let me know in the comments below. In this video, we're going to learn how to and when to use custom events, functions, and macros. We've already been using custom event and functions in the last few videos. This is to solidify that understanding and introduce macros. Let's jump into it. So here I have a basic level where I have the character actor emit some particle effects and play a sound, and also print something on the screen when I overlap that actor. So here you can see after 2 seconds, particle effects happen and play the sound. So now when I overlap that actor at the top left, something got printed, which is the random health that I did. So this is using custom events and function. So let's jump into it. So under my third person here, under the event begin play, basically I just created my custom event here that plays a delay. So this is a latent node. So latent nodes is only available through custom events and to macros, which I'll show later. So after 2 seconds, it would emit spawn an emitter on this location by just grabbing that get actor and then playing a sound. And then here on the event begin play, I'm just calling my custom event. So this is kind of wireless connection where you could have your custom event somewhere and just call it from here. So what we could do here is change things up where I would delete this delay and delete this and use what you call this output delegate. So currently with output delegate, you have options here that are available for you. But once I wire this, use the output delegate. So let me call here set timer by event. And here you would see it has an input for an event delegate. When I wire that up there, now I lose my options for my event here. But what this allows me to do is I could time delay of 2 seconds and make this looping. So basically this is finding this custom event. Every 2 seconds it would fire this custom event that I have. So let's give that a try. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, we'll just keep doing that. So you could also create a custom event with inputs, and here let's say input, just for an example, it has an input of boolean. What you could see here is when it has an input, you can't have it as a delegate, output delegate. It only accepts it when it's a pure custom event. Cool. So you could also use custom events for remote procedural calls. Now let's jump into function, which is more a little bit more powerful. So with functions, here I have a simple function here, which has an output. So basically this when you call it, I have this logic that would create a random float, set the health, and then return the node. And then from my BP health here, I'm just checking. I have this viewport, I have this cube, and I have this sphere. And basically when that sphere is overlapped by the third person character, I'm calling the health function. So if I do this, I could call the which I'm already doing. I could call the health function from my third person class, and then here I'm just doing a print string and then playing the sound and destroying the actor. So let me jump back here. The other options that you have here is you could also create a pure function. So this is mostly used for creating outputs. So and then you also have options to creating local variables. So local variables only exist within that function, but it's not available on the event graph. On custom events. So here it's not possible to have a local variable. It's going to be the global variable for this class. So that's one of the difference. And then for functions as well, if you do inheritance, which I covered in a different topic, you could override this function on your child class and extend the logic. Oh, so let's try adding a new function here and say get my health, and I'm gonna create an output. Output would just be a float, and here I'm going to change it to a pure function, so you would see what a pure function looks like. So I'm just going to grab that, get the health, and basically return whatever the current health is. And when I go back to my event graph here, I'll create a new custom event. I'm going to bind it to the key, so tab key. So when I call my tab key, I want it to call the get my health, and I want it to print whatever value is returned by the random float. So what I actually want to do was do that and not that one. So compile, save, let's do it again. And when I hit tab, it's going to print back whatever's in there. So that's how you create a somehow a pure function. We could now move into macros. So all of this is very similar, where it's a collection of nodes and you could group them together. But the difference with macros, so if I just right click here and say invalid, you would see this one has this gray background. So this is a macro. So the difference is, you can see it has one execution pin, but it could have multiple outputs, and you can't call a macro from a different class. So for example, let's create a macro just now, new macro. I'll compile this, go back to my health where I'm able to retrieve the any properties of my class. When I do this and say new macro, I won't have access to that macro from this class, from my BP health actor. So it's not available. Cool. So that's the difference between macros. Now let's try creating a macro here. So when I click add here, one of the pins here is an executable pin. I could create multiple execution pins if I want, and the same thing with the output here. I could create multiple execution pins. And then macros, as I mentioned, support delay. So let me change this one to a float, and let's fix the naming here. Just say delay. Say fx1, fx2. I'm gonna call this exec. Cool. So by doing so, let me do something like sequence here and say delay, and I could put a delay here, node here, and and duplicate this, wire that up there, and do this. So you could create something like this. And when I go back to here, I'm gonna remove this and call that new macro that we just created. So we called it new macro, and I could put a delay of 2 seconds here, and I could have do something else. So play sound 2D, this is the first sound, and play sound 2D, and this is the next sound. So let me play that. When I hit tab 2, it will play in sequence the first one, then the next one. Cool. So that is how you use macros. Hope you learned something from this video. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Cheers. Bye for now.